It was mid-October when the World Health Organization monitored an increase in respiratory illnesses. On November 13, 2023, China reported a nationwide increase of respiratory disease affecting kids. 22nd of November of 2023, the World Health Organization ID'd media and ProMed reports about clusters of undiagnosed pneumonia in Beijing hospitals. 23rd November 2023, the World Health Organization and the Chinese Health Authority, along with several other leading health agencies, held a meeting where data confirmed an increase in outpatient consultations and hospital admissions in children for a wide range of respiratory illnesses. On the 24th of November, China announced a visa-free travel for France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Spain, and Malaysia. Between the 20th and 24th of November, 80 out of 100,000 kids in the Netherlands between the ages of 5 and 15 were treated for pneumonia. The 30th of November 2023, Denmark, Sweden, and Singapore reported large surges of spikes. Also on the 30th, Ohio and Massachusetts reported an unusually high spike in cases. On December 1st, a group of senators asked the president for a ban on travel. And given recent events and recent history, a lot of people have been concerned, and there's been a lot of distrust going on. So let's look at this thing from as many angles as possible and have an open conversation about it. And if that's something you prefer, then this is the place for you. Welcome to The Point, so let's talk about it.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Now, the original story that came out, it said that these spikes in illnesses in kids were due to the recent relaxation of COVID restrictions. But when you look at Europe, Denmark, the Netherlands, Sweden, these countries that have relaxed these restrictions for some time, it wouldn't necessarily make sense that they have a spike. And of course, in the United States, we've been off these restrictions for some time. So if it is just a recent relaxation in protocols that causes this type of spike, what explains the spike in these countries that have been off these protocols for some time? It's drawn a lot of concern. You've had individuals like Charlie Kirk posting things on Twitter, and then of course there's individuals posting other articles saying that what he is saying is false, and it's caused a lot of misinformation. It's caused a lot of confusion. The idea of white lung syndrome being a new illness, according to health experts at this time, is not accurate. Instead, it is more of a catch-all, according to them, for a wide range of respiratory illnesses, mainly due to the fact that when a chest x-ray is performed, areas that would normally be seen as black are now showing white, and the white is picking up the infection. But the people who believe individuals are overreacting to this need to understand that the terminology being used and the way this is being talked about and the way this is being covered almost mirrors the exact terminology used during the last pandemic. Now, in that particular situation, after some time, all those illnesses that started in China and spread throughout the world had a common thread. In this particular case, at this moment, they are not identifying a common thread. And they're calling it white lung syndrome because all these respiratory illnesses that would usually peak around this time are coming at once. And the lack of restrictions, the lack of lockdown, and how that affects, it really depends on where you're getting your information from. Now, yes, for example, the United States has been off lockdowns for some time. And in fact, in some parts of the country, it was almost as if they weren't on lockdown to begin with. But I would wonder when they talk about the recent restrictions and lockdowns, are they referring to the relaxation of families getting together within a state or within a community? Or are they saying, well, now people are traveling across state in different locations to celebrate the holidays, and because they're in these totally different areas, they're now coming in contact with viruses and illnesses that they wouldn't necessarily have came in contact years prior. Doctors have got on TV and said that a lot of these illnesses have a 3 to 4 year cycle as well, and that every few years something will pop up. It is a communal virus and a communal bacteria at the end of the day, And during that cycle, individuals will be affected. From everything I can see at this particular moment, nobody is passing from this. In fact, these symptoms usually include fatigue, mild fever, cough, runny nose, and other typical signs and symptoms of something like the flu or RSV. But it is something to keep an eye on. It is targeting a very specific group of individuals, and the cause for concern is validated. There is a reason to be concerned. I do think it's important that we try to not keep this thing political. We try to not pick a political party when we're determining the validity of this thing, but also to simply say this is a new virus and this is a weaponized attack at this particular moment is also unwarranted. There is no evidence to back that up. Viruses are cyclical. This is something that has happened in this country long before the lockdowns and long before illnesses became a political talking point. And the immunity gap that they're partially blaming for this thing is legitimate. We all thought when we were going on lockdowns that this would wreck a lot of people's immune system because they wouldn't have the ability to fight off the yearly viruses that they would normally encounter. And this might just be a thing where in that cyclical 3 to 4 year period with that immunity gap, now they're facing those problems. But for articles to simply say, for example, Charlie Kirk is completely false isn't necessarily 100% accurate. There has been a spike and it has affected a lot of people, and it will continue to affect people. When this video was recorded, there were 11 states reporting a high number of respiratory illnesses, but they were not reporting it as white lung syndrome. It was being reported as the flu, RSV, and your typical yearly or every other year respiratory illness. I have been seeing a lot of videos and a lot of people make content on this, and they're covering it from several different sides. Some people are pushing towards the panic button side of the argument. Other people are saying, hey, hold on, this is nothing to worry about. I would say you can be as concerned as you want. Traditional methods to prevent yourself from catching a virus or a bacteria are all the same. Keep your hands clean. Keep your hands away from your face. Cover your nose. If you are sick, avoid going around other individuals. Basically, common courtesy handles a lot of this. Now, how bad this will get, that is yet to be determined. We will have to see. We'll have to keep an eye on it. But we should do what we can as citizens to keep this from necessarily becoming political. Let's keep an eye on things. And if you see any of this different, you can let me know down in the comments below. The timing is odd when you look at the timeline and you look at the times these countries had gotten off restrictions versus what we are being told was the cause of this in China. That is true. That is a valid point. That is a valid argument. But as of right now, nobody can identify a single cause for this thing. It seems to be a cyclical run of viruses all hitting at the same time, at least on paper right now. I'm not saying it is. And if you see any of this differently, let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. Y'all stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.